Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very empowering show coming right up with special guest, Dr. Linda Backman, and she's here today to share with us her new book, Souls on Earth, Exploring Interplanetary Past Lives. Now, Dr. Linda is a psychologist and a regression therapist who's been in private practice for 40 years. Dr. Backman guides individuals in soul regression hypnotherapy to access their past and in-between lives. In this way, she assists people to more fully recognize who they are as a soul throughout repetitive lifetimes and during the time we are not incarnated, as well as discovering their soul's intention for this life. So let's welcome to the show, Dr. Linda Backman.
Thank you so much, Marianne. It's great to be back with you.
Oh, what a joy it is to spend this time with you again, and I'm so looking forward to talking about your new book. I hear it's changing lives.
Well, hopefully it's serving the purpose it was meant to serve. Yeah.
Well, hey, it's got to be a good thing as an author to hear about the feedback that you're getting, because I know it's very popular. You know, people are talking about this. And so I have to ask, because, you've got a few books under your belt that are just phenomenal. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, that's a great question. What inspired me to write this book that, for some people, they may find it kind of unique and sort of sitting on the fringe of spiritual information. And yet, for me, slowly but surely, it became kind of the norm. So when I started guiding past life regression and between lives regression about 25 years ago, I was taught by one of my mentors that we could have lives on Earth and we could have lives not on Earth. I believe that to be true. And then basically what happened, Marianne, is about, 12, maybe 14 years ago, I started paying attention to, thinking about the clients I'd been working with, and I realized that 50 to 60% of my regression clients were discovering lives not on Earth and the uniqueness of how that affects the soul, what are the skills, what are the challenges. But I started realizing, oh my goodness, about half of the population of weekly clients for me, they were discovering past lives not on Earth, and I thought, well, there has to be a reason that I'm both to work with these kinds of people and souls, but I'm to gain this knowledge. So basically, to make it simple, I realized that I was learning some pretty fascinating and unique information that there are more and more souls on Earth, souls embodied, that have had non-Earth experience, and why they're here today. Again, what are their gifts and what are their challenges? So I realized that a book had to be put together with this kind of information.
Well, I'm so glad you put this together. I'm sure there's some people going, wait a minute, hold the press. Okay, so I just got into the past life things, and I get that, the reincarnation, totally get that, and then it doesn't necessarily need to be on this planet. So I'd love for you to kind of maybe either share some examples or just kind of dive into that a little bit, because I think most people, when they think of reincarnation or past lives, they think it's on Earth.
That's correct. That's correct. So, if you had talked to me 22 to 25 years ago and you had suggested that there was this specific information and unique qualities of people who are in life today who've had non-Earth embodiment, non-Earth experience, I would have just kind of paused and probably like some of the listeners and, wondered about the validity. But what started happening for me, as I said a few minutes ago, is that I started working more and more with clients who were discovering these lives not on Earth. And so to just kind of give a bit of a better context, better package of the whole thing, you might say, I began to learn, maybe this is a good place start, Marianne. So I began to learn about the history of Earth from clients. And so as I share with you what I'm sharing, this is all of the information that didn't come from me, came from my clients. My understanding is that when Earth first began to have what we would call Homo sapien life, incarnated souls as Homo sapiens, in the beginning, these were very primitive souls that were embodying in Homo sapien bodies, and life initially was very simple and primitive and basic. Essentially, these people had to figure out where to find shelter, where to find food, and it was pretty simple. But then as time went on with Homo sapien life, communities began to grow, and certain need for structure, for progressive, more rules, morality, and that sort of thing. Then the guides of Earth realized they needed more advanced souls to assist with such primitive life that was expanding into the need for structure and morality. So originally, souls came from somewhere else in the universe to embody on Earth to help move, you might say, the human culture forward. Many of those souls then incarnated on Earth over and over and over and over for tens of thousands of years. And some of us are what I call, in my book, it's the term I was given, Earth-based souls, meaning a soul that most of the time embodies on Earth. But then periodically, when humanity has hit times of crises and times of pivotal possibility of growth, the guides that serve Earth have led a greater number of incarnations of souls that come from somewhere else in the universe, that primarily incarnate somewhere else in the universe because of their level of knowledge and wisdom. And we're in a time period just like that now. So there has been an influx of what I have been taught to call interplanetary souls on Earth now because of their level of, you could just simply say, evolution.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because when we consider this, and it must have been so fascinating for you. Here you're doing these regressions, and you're kind of getting all of these people who have had either they're having similar experiences or they're all pretty much like have a piece of somebody else's puzzle.
Yes, I would say that's true. And what I found is as I've worked with clients who discover they don't primarily embody on Earth, is that these clients have often known that they're different. They don't know why that they don't fit into human life very easily. They don't know why they seem to have oftentimes a pretty broad perspective of what's right, what's wrong, what would be better, more effective, more appropriate human behavior. And so they're gifted and they're, you could say, broad-based in their life perspective. But they also have challenges. One, because they don't fit in. Two, because they often have some type of physical challenge, chemical sensitivity, emotional challenge, learning challenge, only because they don't usually embody on Earth.
Yeah, that is true. And I actually know somebody who has those kind of issues physically, where it's been a real struggle to kind of find their place in this, kind of so to speak, because they've incarnated on this planet, and it's kind of foreign for them.
Yes, and in so many ways, the way of life, the physical structure, the type of nutrition, or the type of communication or way of interacting, isn't at all what life is like where these souls come from. And I have learned that interplanetary souls all have what you could call a home base. So they come from an energetic frequency outside of Earth's energy. They come from, people are often asking me about the names of places where they come from. Well, yes, some of them come from nameable places that have meaning to us, places that we could say the Pleiades or Sirius or Venus. But also, many of these souls, their home base is somewhere other than Earth's frequency, and the name of the location we either don't know the name or the name is unimportant. But they know they're unique. I've often had my clients that are interplanetary souls say to me, and I hear this sometimes in the interview time, and I say nothing until we do the regression, but often these clients will say, I've always felt alien here on Earth. And not always, but often then when I guide the regression, both through the discovery of the past life that can be interplanetary and the discovery of their soul's home base, where their guides come from, we learn the word alien fits because they feel alien with life on Earth.
Mm. Well, and so you kind of touched on this a little bit, but so basically when we look at the life purpose of a soul that's in, they're interplanetary souls, how is that different from the souls that are here on this planet at this time?
That's a great question. The life purpose, again, trying to kind of keep giving kind of a bigger picture, broader explanation. My understanding is that the percentage of embodied souls on the planet, on planet Earth, where we all live, the percentage of incarnate souls or people on Earth that are, you might say, more evolved versus less evolved is very small. So my understanding it's about 3 to 4% of the Earth's population are more evolved souls. Then you have to sort of split that percentage, that 3 to 4%, in half, and about half of that, let's just call it 4%, about half of that 4% are Earth-based souls, and about half of that 4% are interplanetary souls. So more evolved souls are absolutely a kind of a small slice of the human population, and yet Earth-based souls tend to find it somewhat easier to be in body on Earth than interplanetary souls, simply because they're more familiar with life here.
That's just fascinating, because when you look at this, I mean, I'm sure, because we all come to this planet with our different challenges that we wish to overcome and things that we wish to perfect. And it must be so different for interplanetary souls, what their agenda is on incarnating here.
Yes, I mean, interplanetary souls, some are more comfortable than others operating, sort of in the human climate, you might say. But some are, some lean in the almost, what in psychology we call agoraphobic direction. So some are very, very shy. Some have a difficult time interacting. They have a difficult time dealing with crowds and dealing with the energy of human life and places that we live. Others are somewhat more comfortable. For example, I really have come to believe, and I hear information about the autistic spectrum in regressions with my clients. I think often the diagnoses, the various types of diagnoses on the autistic spectrum may likely be not completely accurate, that there's not something wrong with this person, or it's not inadequate nutrition in the mother's first trimester, or some talk about vaccines that they think can cause these kinds of things. I think oftentimes it's a soul who hasn't been here many times but needs to be here because of the wisdom that they bring, but they're simply not accustomed to how humans interact.
That makes a lot of sense, because you do see a lot of really high functioning, when we look at people with autism, Asperger's, that are so driven and have so much purpose. It's a whole different arena than how people have typically labeled them.
Right, and they're very wise. They tend to see the bigger picture of life. Obviously, a lot of the people diagnosed on the autistic spectrum are children. There certainly are adults as well, but a lot of these children then are labeled with learning disorders or, social inadequacy, and they're really extremely advanced, wise souls that have come to Earth intentionally to help Earth evolve. But, you know how it works. It's like we as humans tend to kind of put people in boxes and expect people to fit a certain, look or style of personality or way of interacting. And so we need the wisdom of these souls, and yet they're unique.
Yeah, especially now more than ever, it seems like, because with everything we have going on the planet right now, it seems that we do need some souls here with a great deal of wisdom.
Totally, and we're going through so many struggles, so many issues that tie to humanity's lack of acceptance of all people, or caretaking of the earth, or caretaking of animals, and often interplanetary souls are they're very sensitive to these kinds of issues. But interplanetary souls often deal with allergies, they deal with autoimmune disorders, nutritional issues, and so we very quickly, misunderstand what they're struggling with, and they need to be supported, they need to be understood. Often you have a child who's an interplanetary soul, and two parents who are Earth-based souls, and it's useful to have both parents as Earth-based souls because they're more easily grounded and handle the details of life on Earth fairly well. But then it's easy for them to misunderstand their child, and why is their child so unique? Why does their child have advanced skills? These are often children who have advanced verbal skills and delayed mathematical skills, or vice versa. So this is what I began to discover with my clients, and as my clients would either, they would often, during the regression, when the past life ended, even if it was an Earth past life, because some interplanetary souls have a number of Earth past lives, then in the longer regression that I guide, the client then follows their journey, returning back to where their soul actually comes from, or to their higher self, and then they would discover what their soul's home base was like. And their soul's home base would be purely loving, or it would be complete equality, healthy relationships. And so at times clients need to know that, and yet they also need to know they're here with purpose, because in many ways they would wish to remain at their soul's home base.
I think we all kind of think that. You get a lot of people who have had near-death experiences and want to stay in heaven, and it's like, okay, but we've got this purpose here,
Right, exactly.
Well, and kind of on that topic, it's a little different, though. So when we talk about, like, spirit guides and elders, how does that fit in, for souls that are here that have had interplanetary past lives?
Yes, I've discovered, again, through listening to client after client, that spiritual guides for interplanetary souls can be somewhat different than spiritual guides for Earth-based souls. So basically, we all have spiritual guides, and spiritual guides are benevolent. Our spiritual guides don't leave us. We might forget to tune into them, but they don't, they don't get upset and walk away from us. That basically doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. An Earth-based soul, my understanding, is that an Earth-based soul always has a lead, or you might call it a chief spiritual guide, and almost always a team of guides, and that lead guide is sort of in charge of the team. For an interplanetary soul, they at times have a spiritual guide and a very small team, but not a large team. On the other hand, some interplanetary souls, because of their degree of soul evolution, often it's the soul self, or what we would also call the higher self, of the interplanetary soul client. It's their higher self that serves as their guide, because at the soul level they are extremely evolved. So that can be different.
On that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with Dr. Linda Backman in regards to her new book, Souls on Earth, Exploring Interplanetary Past Lives. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. We'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special, when you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed, and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 123 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
There are nearly 2 million Americans living with amputation. Many live right here in San Antonio. Becoming an amputee can be scary, frustrating, isolating, but there's no reason to feel alone. The San Antonio Amputee Foundation is here to help support you and guide you toward resources such as home and car modifications and even prosthetic limbs. For more information or to make a donation, visit saamputee.org. We'll help you live a full, active life, one step at a time. San Antonio Amputee Foundation, healing limbs, hearts, and souls.
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We're here today with special guest, Dr. Linda Backman, and she's sharing with us her new book, Souls on Earth, Exploring Interplanetary Past Lives. So, Dr. Backman, before we went for break, we were talking in regards to the journey of a soul. And, I found your book to be extremely impactful, especially when we talk about not just the in-between portions of when a soul incarnates, but also the souls that are here and the lives that they're here to live. You really have explained that very well.
Again, like we said in the beginning of our discussion, if you'd asked me 22 to 25 years ago, did I believe that there were souls that primarily, had incarnation somewhere other than on Earth that came to Earth, that would seem, very much, sci-fi-ish to me. And then as I continue to do regression work, which I do most of the time week in and week out and far more than once a week, then I started having clients who either were going to past lives not on Earth, so they needed to know what happened in their past lives that were non-Earth. And as I said, they were also going to their soul's home base. And when they traveled to their soul's home base, then we would begin to learn who are their guides, and we would begin to learn what are the unique skills and abilities of souls that come from their soul's home base. So interplanetary, or what I call IP home bases, if you will, can be different. They're always healthy, but they can be a planet, a star system. They can even be a location that is simply an energetic or interdimensional space that there's no density, but yet they're all unique. Some can be a completely feeling-based culture. Some can be a completely left-brained or linear-based cultures. In some cases, they produce children. In some cases, they don't produce children. In some cases, they communicate through some means that is telepathic. So they're very unique, but bottom line, they're always healthy cultures.
So when you have clients that come to you and they're looking for information in regards to a past life, and they sit down, they find out that in interplanetary past life that they are looking into, is there some type of wisdom that's gained from that past life that helps them with this life?
Well, the first response, or the first thought, Marianne, about that is that these are often clients who've always known they were different. Sometimes they relate much better with animals than with humans. And the client themselves sometimes feels like, kind of an oddball. It's sort of like, why don't I fit in? Why don't I relate better to other people? Why do I like to spend most of my time by myself? Or why do I feel like I have a perspective of what would be more an effective way to live life than many other people? So the first benefit of discovering that for the client discovering they're an IP soul, is that they suddenly get themselves. It's like, now there's an explanation for me. So that's one. And then as the client learns about the sort of specifics of what they're like. It's like, I'm thinking about one particular woman that I've worked with for quite a long time. She comes from a soul's home base, an IP home base that is purely feeling oriented. She, as a person, is purely feeling oriented, and she's older now, in her 50s, but for a long time, she didn't understand herself, and many people didn't understand her. So it's learning what's your uniqueness, where do you come from, which makes it easier for the client to continue their life here, and also the client begins to understand what is the purpose, for what reason did they come to Earth.
Well, and it must give them a lot of kind of like, an affirmation or clarity when they get that information, going, gosh, okay, now that makes sense. It all comes together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, it'd be interesting if you had not only an interview with me as you and I are talking and discussing, but a client as well, who and a lot of that is in this new book. But oftentimes the client discovers that they know someone in their current life who's also from their home base. And that happens, but it's also fairly common for an IP soul to come to Earth and they know no one else from their soul's home base, either because that home base has not, let me put it this way, either because that it's so challenging for souls to come from an IP home base and come here because life here on Earth is so different, that at times my client, and this may or may not sound strange, but it's what comes out in the regression, my client comes to Earth to gather information about what it's like to live here in order then to inform other souls from that home base to incarnate on Earth in the future. So it's moderately common for an IP soul, obviously as my client, so they're a human person. I don't regress aliens, or at least that hasn't happened yet, that my client often feels rather alone because they don't know anybody else that's like them.
Well, I find that fascinating because, you can see where people would feel so disconnected and so alone because, like, no one gets them.
Exactly, and that's the point. It's either, no one gets them, or, it's kind of hard to put into words. It's like either no one gets them, or they, the client, have looked for friendships or relationships, and they find it hard to discover a balanced friendship or a balanced romantic relationship. And I want to be sure that as I say that I counter that by saying I also work with a lot of IP clients who do have solid friendships or do have solid romantic relationships. And actually, what's fairly common, Marianne, is that my IP clients, if they have children, often their child or one of their children is also an IP soul. So in many ways, they sort of support each other.
Yeah, they choose their family wisely, knowing that, incarnating is, as IP is difficult enough, and to have some support would kind of help them along their journey.
Correct. Correct. Totally true. Yeah. But it's really about me helping IP souls know who they are, know why they're here, know the reason they struggle with allergies or, narrow diets or things like that, know why they're unique, and then be aware that there's such a great need for their wisdom and their perspective on the planet. And, I realize this is a unique topic. It's a unique discussion that you and I are having, and yet I think so important, because I have no doubt there are more interplanetary souls on Earth right now than there have been in a rather long time. And I think it's partly why we see children being labeled with learning disabilities, or more and more people with food allergies and chemical sensitivities and that sort of thing, because these are evolved souls, but they don't experience, they're not accustomed to the way we function on Earth and the way our human bodies work.
Yeah. I mean, they're still kind of getting used to that, how everything functions, how people work, as far as, interpersonal relationships, those kind of things. I would imagine, and I mean, that's kind of a blanket statement because everyone's so different, but I would imagine that, and maybe you can clarify this for me, do they tend to be, when we talk about clair abilities, kind of like clairaudient, and the different ones that there are, do you find that they are a little bit stronger and maybe one or more of those than people who are not IP?
Yes, I would say that's actually quite common. It's like they're not only sensitive to being in the energy of other people, but their sensitivities, and in some ways it's a blessing and a curse. Their sensitivities, yes, are intuitive sensitivities. So at times they're very able to, intuit information, intuit things that are coming forward, that sort of thing. And so that's usually a skill, and that's actually also true of advanced souls in general. It tends to be that, those that are, going back to my commentary about 3 to 4% of the Earth's population are more experienced souls versus less experienced souls. That tends to be the case that even Earth-based, more experienced souls are more, they eat more, better, maybe the best way to put it is they access their intuition, or they receive intuitive information easily because of their soul evolution.
So this has me kind of thinking here, which is sometimes a dangerous thing to do. But when we think about this, and usually the IP souls are here to help elevate our evolution, because I know in your book you talk about how soul evolution is essential for the ongoing evolution of the universe. Are they doing this? Are they incarnating here with us in a way to advance our evolution so it lifts the evolution of the universe as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're off track at all. I'm often teaching about the fact that evolution is a linear process, meaning evolution happens in real time. So I know there are some spiritual teachers who will say that past, present, and future are all happening at once. Therefore, we can go back and change our past lives, or our future lives are happening, sort of like as we speak. Based on listening to many, many clients, I do not believe that's the case. The soul evolution happens in real time, just like today is today and tomorrow will be tomorrow. So as we evolve as an individual soul, so let's see if I can, again, try to make this simple. As we evolve as an individual soul when we're embodied on Earth, we affect the evolution of humanity, of life on Earth, in real time. But yes, as I think I'll say, in the hopes that Earth will evolve more and more, the evolution of Earth contributes to the evolution of the universe. That the universe is evolving in real time. So it's not like at some high level of high frequency that we could call the source, the Tao, Great Spirit, God. Everything is evolving in the universe as we move from day to day.
I think that makes perfect sense because, and as soon as I asked that, I was like, well, then I was thinking about time as kind of a thing that we are confined by, which, doesn't really have a whole lot to do with the rest of the universe when we look at it in that way,
Yeah, I think that the piece of information that I think is so crucial that I've learned again from clients over time is that Earth will evolve, and obviously therefore the universe will evolve, but Earth and humanity will evolve based on my actions and your actions and the actions of all of us, that there's no magical way that Earth evolves other than us being active participants of life on Earth. And that, of course, we have Western religious belief structure and we have Eastern religious belief structure. And obviously, most of us as spiritual people know that Eastern belief is all about is based on reincarnation, and Eastern religions have always been based on reincarnation. Western religion teaches, if I can put it this way, the shoulds and should nots, the musts and must nots, and more of a punishment model. I honestly don't believe that's true. I believe that as we move through each lifetime, and as we continue balancing our past life free will choices that were not necessarily the most useful, what we might call karma, we can balance those choices in life today, then we grow and evolve as a soul, and that's how humanity and the universe grows and evolves. It's like, it's complicated. I try to explain things to people in a very grounded, black and white way, and that is feasible. At the same time, all these concepts, in many ways are very esoteric.
Oh, yeah. But I think what's interesting, we're in a time now. I mean, we talked about 20 years ago, maybe discussing this, how it would have been for both of us. We were like, I don't know about that, or I don't know a whole lot about that, but now we're at such a point in our history that it feels like people are more open to hearing about other possibilities that we may not have considered in the past. And this makes perfect sense when you think about it.
Yeah, I think that, as life in some ways becomes more complicated on Earth, yes, I think many people, and including ourselves, are needing a deeper understanding of, we might say, why do bad things happen to good people? And what are we struggling with? For what reason are we so factionalized? And, certainly, life in our country of the United States, there's a great struggle between both the haves and the have-nots, and my way is right and your way is wrong, and we certainly don't have a unity perspective. But it's from my understanding, it's our responsibility to take charge and speak up and vote and speak out for social justice causes and things like that.
Yeah. And that really just starts with, having these kinds of discussions, because a lot of it is about kind of coming back full circle where we are all connected. We're all connected to one another, and just kind of realizing that helps us as we're helping each other kind of on this journey. It's really interesting. I mean, there's so many different things we can talk about. We could talk for days on this topic. You have so many wonderful examples within the book, Souls on Earth, and also just, different tools and things like that that people can use. So let's say someone feels that they are possibly an IP. What are some survival tips for them while they're here?
Well, I think, number one, if they suspect their IP, to not fight that, to start by, as much as they can, working on self-acceptance. Again, because interplanetary souls, just like all evolved souls on Earth, we are not the norm. But we came here to not only increase our own soul evolution, but we came here to be teachers and to serve as, you might say, catalysts on the planet to move the planet forward. So if someone suspects or knows they're an interplanetary soul, one, to accept themselves and accept their differences and to know that their differences are purposeful. And if that means their lifestyle is unique, if that means their diet is unique, or their means of interaction or their comfort level with interaction is unique, again, to accept that and trust that they have a purpose, just like every other soul on the planet is here with purpose, that they are purposeful beings, and to know that they might struggle with certain things, whether they're emotions or their intuitive ability, but again to know that those are their unique gifts and skills. And then I would also say to anyone who feels like they have an interplanetary soul child or an interplanetary soul friend or sibling, that those IP souls need a sense of acceptance. They need to know they may know they're different, but that there's nothing wrong with them, and to support their need to have a gluten-free diet, or their need to be vegetarian, or to have to not be able to go into environments that have a lot of pollution and that sort of thing, and then to capitalize on their gifts and to give them opportunities to use the gifts that they bring.
I think that's so important, and also to realize, you were talking about how they're not alone. They're not the only person. I mean, there's a community for them as well. They're not the only person out there that has these kind of things that are going on.
That's just totally true. Because I have so many clients that are IP souls, and some of them have suspected that they were an IP soul before they came. Others have never even considered that possibility. And when that explanation, when that content of information about who they are as a soul comes forward, it's almost like, you might say, a gift dropped in their lap, because they didn't understand themselves very well, and they didn't understand, for instance, why they had this particular physiological issue that is simply because they're not normally they don't normally operate in the human body. So it's learning from these interplanetary souls and acknowledging their gifts and learning from their gifts.
What a delicious conversation this is. I mean, we can talk about past life souls, soul regression, your book, Souls on Earth, and of course you have your other book, The Evolving Soul. Gosh, Dr. Linda, where can people connect with you and be part of your community, and also learn about the regressions that you do?
Well, they can go to my website, which is Raven, like the bird, ravenheartcenter.com. There they can find programs that I teach. I train people in regression. I train people in understanding the soul. The regression trainings are open to anyone, not just if you want to have a regression practice, but to broaden yourself spiritually. So if they simply go to my website, ravenheartcenter.com, they'll find books. My books are on Amazon as well, and so that's how they can discover various places I am in the United States guiding regression, and that's where they can sort of basically find my calendar.
Well, I know you're super busy because you're in high demand. If someone was looking to book an appointment, that's a great place for them to start, and they can reach out to you there, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, do you know, Dr. Linda, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us today and, of course, to share your wisdom and insight.
Thank you so much, Marianne. It's been a pleasure talking with you again.
Well, thank you, Dr. Backman. It is always such a treat to spend time with you. I'm so glad we got to talk about your new book, Souls on Earth, Exploring Interplanetary Past Lives, and of course, all the great work that you do. Again, if our listeners would like to connect with you, they can at ravenheartcenter.com, and we'll have the link below. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.